In 1947, near the Dead Sea, a Bedouin shepherd named Mohammed ed-Dib was looking for a lost goat. He threw a rock into a cave, heard a pot shatter, and in the process stumbled upon the single greatest manuscript discovery of the 20th century. It's a fantastic story, mostly because it confirms that some of history's most pivotal moments are driven by bored teenagers and poor animal husbandry. He and his cousins hauled out a few scrolls, which they initially thought were so worthless they hung one up in their tent. Because when you find ancient, brittle leather manuscripts, the first logical step is obviously to use them as rustic home decor. Thankfully, they eventually tried selling them, kicking off a decades-long saga of archaeology, academic feuds, and general human absurdity. So, what exactly did they find? Over the next decade, archaeologists scoured 11 caves and unearthed fragments of over 980 different manuscripts. They're not all Bibles. In fact, most of it isn't. We're talking about community rulebooks, legal documents, war strategies, and weird mystical poetry. It's like finding the ancient equivalent of a monastery's entire library, including their training manuals and the weird fan fiction one of the monks was writing. The materials range from parchment and papyrus to, in one very special case, engraved copper. It's a complete snapshot of a religious community that took itself very, very seriously. Everyone always wants the scrolls to contain some bombshell that rewrites the Bible. A lost gospel, proof of aliens, maybe a decent recipe for bread that doesn't use sand. The reality is somehow both more impressive and profoundly disappointing for conspiracy lovers. The biblical scrolls from Qumran are 1,000 years older than any other copies we had, and they're pretty much the same. The Great Isaiah Scroll, a massive, nearly complete manuscript, matches the modern text with stunning accuracy. All that work by medieval scribes, painstakingly copying texts by hand? Turns out they were actually good at their jobs. It's a massive win for textual history and the crushing blow for anyone hoping to find a secret chapter about Jesus riding a dinosaur. So, who wrote all this? The leading theory points to a reclusive Jewish sect called the Essenes. Think of them as the universe's most intense homeowners association. These guys left Jerusalem because they felt the temple priests were corrupt and not following the rules with enough neurotic precision. They set up a commune in the desert at Qumran where they obsessed over ritual purity, shared all their property, and waited for the world to end. Their community rulebook, the Serek Hayahad, lays out punishments for everything from spitting in the assembly, 30 days exclusion, to laughing foolishly, you guessed it, 30 days. Living there must have been an absolute blast. The Essenes weren't just isolating themselves, they were nursing a serious grudge. Their writings are full of drama, centered around a heroic figure called the Teacher of Righteousness and his arch-nemesis, the Wicked Priest. The Wicked Priest is usually identified as one of the Hasmonean rulers in Jerusalem who had taken over the high priesthood. The scrolls describe him persecuting the teacher and his followers, which is ancient world code for he disagreed with our very specific interpretation of religious law. They wrote detailed commentaries on biblical books, interpreting them as prophecies about their own petty squabbles. It's the ultimate "this is all about me" approach to theology. Speaking of prophecies, these guys were fully prepared for the apocalypse. One of their most famous texts is the War of the Sons of Light against the Sons of Darkness. It's not a vague spiritual text. It is a detailed, almost comically specific military manual for the final battle. It outlines troop formations, the inscriptions that should be on the trumpets and banners, and a battle plan spanning 40 years. For a group that believed God was going to deliver a cosmic victory, they sure didn't want to leave anything to chance. They had 7 divisions of infantry, each with their own standards, and a plan for rotating priests on the front lines to blow horns. Logistically, it's a masterpiece. Theologically, it's a little weird. Then there's the Copper Scroll. Unlike every other scroll, this one is a list of 64 locations where an immense treasure of gold and silver is buried. We're talking tons of precious metal. The problem is the directions are spectacularly unhelpful. In the cistern, which is under the wall of the peristyle, at a depth of 4 cubits, 40 talents of silver. Thanks, that narrows it down. No one knows if this treasure was real, maybe the temple treasure hidden from the Romans, or if it was a complete fantasy. Given that the total amount of gold described would outweigh the entire known gold supply of the ancient world, I'm leaning towards enthusiastic work of fiction. But what a great one! The discovery was in the late 40s, but the public didn't get to see most of the text until the 1990s. Why? Because a small international committee of 8 scholars got exclusive access and then proceeded to work at a glacial pace. This is where modern human behavior mirrors the ancient world perfectly. It became a story of academic ego, gatekeeping, and arguments over who got to publish what. They were nicknamed the Scrollery, and they held on to the unpublished fragments for 40 years, citing the painstaking work required. Finally, in 1991, a library in California got fed up, released a set of unauthorized photos of the fragments, and the academic monopoly was broken. Because nothing motivates progress like a good dose of public shaming. Just when you think the story is over, the 21st century comes along with its own special brand of chaos, the antiquities market. After 2002, a new wave of Dead Sea Scroll fragments started appearing for sale, and institutions with more money than sense, like the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., snapped them up. They spent millions. There was just one tiny problem. They were all fakes. Modern forgeries, created on ancient pieces of leather to fool experts. It's a beautiful, timeless story. Someone discovers something priceless, and 100 years later, someone else is selling cheap knockoffs of it online. So, after all the hype, the academic fights, the forgeries, what is the actual secret of the Dead Sea Scrolls? It's not a conspiracy. The secret is that the world that produced both Judaism and Christianity was infinitely weirder, more diverse, and more argumentative than we ever imagined. Before the scrolls, we had a very linear story. The scrolls show us a messy reality. Dozens of competing Jewish groups, each convinced they were the only ones who truly understood God, all writing their own rulebooks and end-of-the-world plans. The Essenes were just one version, and they ultimately lost. Their library, buried in a cave, is the only thing that remains. It's not a secret gospel, it's a message in a bottle from one of history's fascinating dead ends. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more historical insights. Thanks for watching, nerds!